We've previously called the meeting to order. However, should we redo no? Okay. Meeting minutes have been approved for our prior meeting, and we'll move on to the new business of David Ellis's presentation regarding Dismore Corner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What prompted this was that I was doing some research on an area of High Range Road where the intersection of Pillsbury and High Range come together. It's historically was known as Dismore Corner. And Anne Sciampa pointed me to a document called the Londonderry Appleway Corridor Management Plan. This commission has responsibility for that. It had some references in there that just didn't add up. The one that I wanted to talk primarily about tonight was location 7, which you refer to as Jackson Hall. I think you've all had forwarded from Laura the information that I originally sent to Art some while ago.
It was a while back, I know.
Yeah, and that's really contains the essence of what I want to talk about tonight. The problem with Jackson Hall, as you've marked, is that you haven't marked the location of Jackson Hall. You've marked the location of the building next door, which was George Hurd's store. Jackson Hall no longer exists up there. It was removed. The current building, I think, was put in according to the GIS and the tax records around about 1860. So you've no longer got Jackson Hall in town to look at. But the picture you're showing is of George Hurd's store right next door to it. One of the handouts that I gave left up there is a brown-colored map. If you pull that map out, it was done in 1857 by Chase, and it shows where everyone was living up there. You will see right across from Wiley Hill Road is, I've got to put my glasses on, number 82 High Range Road, sits directly across from Wiley Hill. That building was built round about 1831. It was built by Joseph Batchelder and Samuel Dickey and was built specifically as a general store. They used it in the capacity of a store for quite some while. It went to one of, I think, Joseph's sons called Nathan Batchelder. Towards the 1850s, I believe, it changed hands and was bought by Charles Hurd, and his son George ran the store. It remained as a store for a few years after that. But that's the location that you're presently identifying as location 7. Now, Jackson Hall, which was next door, and your description of it was originally known as the Bell Tavern. The hall had a downstairs, guest rooms above. It was named Jackson Hall after President Andrew Jackson stopped there on his way to Concord from Lowell, Massachusetts. I'm afraid none of that is true. It was never a tavern, and Jackson never stopped in that part of town. There's no single document that says where Andrew Jackson went. There isn't an itinerary. But we do have a lot of newspapers of the time that said he was here in this date, he was here at this time. And we also, in New Hampshire, we have a diary or journal that was kept by Sarah Connell Eyre. She was the sister-in-law of Senator Isaac Hill. Isaac Hill was he helped organize Jackson's campaign, and he arranged his trip through New Hampshire. So we have a first-hand record through her because she was in attendance at a lot of the events. Basically what happened, he came into Lowell on the 27th of June, stayed at the Merrimack Hotel overnight, and there was a parade in Lowell. June the 28th, he left Lowell, and he arrived in Nashua at 10 in the morning. There was another parade and a reception. He left at 12 o'clock. He went to Bow and Concord on that same day. He didn't have time to come to Londonderry, and there's no reason he would have crossed the Merrimack to do it. He wasn't very well at the time. He'd been sick for probably several days in Massachusetts before he came up. He left Concord. Sunday was a sort of a day off for him. That was the 30th. He visited Isaac Hill's family, including this Sarah Connell Eyre, went to church, and then on July the 1st, he left Concord in great secrecy. The newspapers didn't even find out he'd left Concord for 2 days until he arrived in New York City. It was that quiet. So he wasn't going to make a detour into Londonderry on that trip. Mammoth Road had just been opened about a year before, and Senator Isaac Hill, being our local senator from New Hampshire, undoubtedly knew about Mammoth Road because it was a major undertaking. And I think from what's around, there's a semi-reliable source that indicates Jackson stopped for lunch in Pelham. And I think that what happened is Isaac Hill would have known that Mammoth Road would be a lot less public than going down the coach road through Nashua, and probably came down the Mammoth Road, in which case it had changed horses at White's Tavern. They stopped in Pelham, as I say, for lunch at Foster's Tavern in North Pelham. From there, I don't know where he went. The next time he shows up was in Jamaica Plain that evening. That's an 80-mile trip, and in those days, doing anything more than about 4 miles an hour was unlikely. That was a long, full day. Neither Herd Store or Jackson Hole was ever given a license for a tavern. Jackson Hole, when it was run by Ebenezer Whittier, did have a license to sell liquor at the store, but this wasn't a sit-down tavern deal. I'm not sure where the claims came from that are in this Appleway. If they're anything other than random hearsay, it would be great if we could find out how they came about. There might be some untold history there that would shed some light on this. The other thing I've mentioned, Resource 8, Bear Meadow Farm. I don't know if that was the original name of the farm. If it was, it should obviously remain. But it's not near Bear Meadow. The closest older thing to it, it sits, Plunder Meadow Brook runs down the back of it. Runs through some land that's now part of the Muriel Plummer Reserve, and the town owns a piece of land there as well at the back, a piece of conservation land. That was part of the original farm. Bear Meadow, which isn't mentioned in the Londonderry Appleway, would probably be worthwhile mentioning. It's down on Adams Road, right beside Fiddler's Ridge. You can find, I think in the document I sent originally, it gives the coordinates. There's a place where you can actually look up through it from Adams Road. It actually extends right the way up to the back of Wilshire Drive. It's about 70 acres of wetland in there.
This is all up here, David. I don't know if this is the map, I think one of the maps that you gave us. Would it be up in this area here?
Way out.
Way out, way out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right down, it's right down on Adams Road.
Okay, so it'd
Almost
be,
down where the stream crosses at the dam.
oh, okay,
Fiddler's Ridge is down that way.
yep.
It's right beside Fiddler's Ridge Road.
Yeah,
Fiddler's
'cause-
Ridge is on the east side of it.
Because we got Adams Pond down in there. and
Yeah,
I guess
Adams
it's-
Pond is further on. That was
Yeah,
25-acre meadow.
I know there's a lot of wet
Yeah.
water that's there.
Yeah, it's 25-acre meadow was by Adams Pond. Bear Meadow was between Adams Road and Wilshire Drive, and immediately west of Fiddler's Ridge. There's about 70 acres of wetland in there, some of which is town-owned.
Yeah,
Hunter's Meadow is down where the new Cross Farm development is. And there was Butterfield Meadow is down at the end of High Range where you just come down to 102.
Oh, yeah, Lithia Spring area.
Yeah, in terms of taverns up there, there were 3 taverns in that part of town. And I don't know whether one of those might have been called the Bell Tavern and led to the Bell Tavern reference. I've no way to find out that. There was one of them was run at number 109 High Range Road. It's now a modern house. There's an old barn there. But in that area, there was a tavern. There was another one across the street, up at the back. It would have been probably about number 90, although that's been absorbed into number 86 now. But up on the hill there, there's a big anomaly in the contour line and a cellar hole that shows it quite distinctly. And then there was one where, what was it, Maplehurst, I think? Yeah, Resource 9. That's a modern building, as you rightly say,
Yeah,
1880s. But back in the early 1800s, no, actually, it goes back into the 1700s, 1773, there was a tavern there run by Josiah Jones. And it was a tavern there up until about 1801. Then that one closed, and that one that I just mentioned down at, where are we? 109 High Range was opened up, and then after that, there was the other one at number 90. You do have a bit of general history in that Dismore Corner area. In 1833, there was a guy by the name of Goodnow made a map of New Hampshire and all the stage routes. And the only stage route in Londonderry before Mammoth Road ran up Wiley Hill, up High Range, and down Pillsbury and into Derry. It's a fairly historic one. It was known as the Old Rum Trail because they used to bring all the goods and rum up from Boston. Came up the Middlesex Canal to Pawtucket by barges and things up the Merrimack. They offloaded it at Thornton's Ferry, brought it through Pinecrest in Litchfield, Wiley Hill, and that's probably why these hotels and businesses developed, because after you've brought a mule wagon or ox wagon up Wiley Hill at about 2 miles an hour, you're about ready for a drink.
and keep the tavern supplied.
Yeah, it continued from there over Pillsbury Road, which originally at Hardy Corner, where Gilchrist comes across, it went straight up the hill beside the old schoolhouse originally, crossed the bottom of Hovey Road. It went up over across 93, up the back, Bike Lane off the side of
Yes.
Ash Street.
Yep.
Up the back there on the hill is the continuation of the old road. It's the only bit of that road remaining, and it was the first road that was ever laid out in Londonderry. Unfortunately, it's scheduled for removal by Woodmont shortly. But anyway, it went over there and went down to Adams and Redfield's store in East Derry, and that's where they offloaded most of these goods. The road continued down the Old Chester Road into Chester, out to Raymond, and then there were some stage routes from Concord to Exeter. The road itself was known as the road from Thornton's Ferry to Portsmouth. That's what it appeared at in the deeds. It was the biggest road through town, or the busiest.
So it was really, original settlement in East Derry, it was its connection to what is here, and that was evidently, at an intersection with a bustling, a commercial
Yeah.
and residential enterprise and service the traveling public.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to take any more of your time now. You have the document here. I strongly recommend that you fix the Jackson Hall reference. If you want any help with any interpretation of historical information, Laura knows how to get hold of me. Art knows how to get hold of me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you privately or publicly. I got one other thing to do. This is a gift to the Heritage Commission. It's a copy of the Bismarck Corner work.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
David is a researcher's researcher. This is so thorough. I just find it incredible.
Okay, well, I will
And
let you
My
get on with
background is
tonight's
research,
business.
but it's biomedical research. It's not historical research.
Any questions before I go sit down?
No,
Seeing
You can have a lot of things to think
Historical
about.
Society, David, Historical Society have any input on it? Ann? Was there-
Ann Champa, 28 Wedgewood Drive. This is on, right? I just want to say, David's work, you read his document. It's thorough, it's impeccable, and the detail he includes is just amazing. I'm not sure if he mentioned one thing about Ebenezer Whittier's son.
Oh, yes, I forgot.
Okay.
The
Ebenezer Whittier had a son in 1835, 2 years after Andrew Jackson came to the state. So many people were enamored by Andrew Jackson. Some were naming their children after him. One little boy met him up in Concord, and Andrew Jackson gave him a silver coin to remember that by because he was named Andrew. And in 1835, Ebenezer Whittier and his wife had a son, and they named it after Andrew Jackson. But I thought it was pretty heavy named for a child to have. He was named Jackson Van Buren Whittier. He was not only named after the president, but also the vice president, too. So that was the name he carried in life. And who knows, maybe that's where the tale came from, the name of his son named Jackson.
I agree with that. The Jackson Halls, it's obvious that Ebenezer Whittier, who lived at Jackson Hall, was enamored of the president. And I will bet you that he probably filled his store up with memorabilia and local folklore did the rest.
Thank you very much. Very
Thank you,
well
Anne. I've
done.
forgotten that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
So I think the commission should work at updating at probably the appropriate time to update our corridor management plan. I think this was put together when John Vogel was still here. But I think he took stuff, because I know Peter Lowett had some information also. Peter Lowett was actually a planner we had back in the 80s. So it had probably taken from something in history or whatever. But it seemed like the Jackson Hole thing is probably, I think as David said, more folklore than actual. I think, David's got the evidence, so.
Yeah, it's, especially if we're actually referring to a location that's incorrect as well. I think that
Yes.
makes sense, that we should, at the minimum, I mean, luckily, he's given us plenty to go by so that we
Exactly,
can look
everything
back. I
is-
mean, he's cited sources very well. It seems like
Yeah,
really good research, so. I agree. I think it should at least be reviewed and looked into to see if maybe we need to change some of our records. Something we think maybe we should do a motion on, take a vote.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
And seconded, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. And the ayes have it. Okay.
Thank you, David.
Yes, thank you.
Document you sent around, this is my copy of it with the markups that I have made since in red.
And Laura, we'll have a chat, I guess, afterwards, just to talk about,
You can put it on an agenda as a workshop item
okay,
to talk about it more. I can do that for next meeting.
perfect. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our design review applications. Our first design review is for a building renderings and design of a second proposed one-story, 50,000 square foot warehouse building for construction on an approved site plan at 5 Aviation Park Drive, map 14, lots 2911 and 2920. Kelly Company, Inc., applicant, and Burndy LLC owner. And I believe, actually, you're returning from our last meeting, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the commission. Good evening. I'll do my best to follow that wonderful presentation on our history. Found that very fascinating, as did our architect who is here with me tonight, Greg Smith, GSD Associates. I would like to make a couple clarifications for the minutes,
If you could
if I may.
Just
And-
introduce yourself.
I missed that part, didn't I? Sean Smith, RJ Kelly Company. Thank you.
Thank you.
As a part of the planning process, we did reduce the size of the building from 50,000 to 42,000 square feet. So it's a little bit smaller than stated in the agenda. And I will have to update the record ownership as well. Burndy LLC is no longer record owner. It is a subsidiary of RJ Kelly Company.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, I don't plan to speak too much, just by way for members of the commission as a reminder. As you stated, Mr. Chairman, we were here in front of you last November. We sought approval at that time for the first building, which was a Loomis Armored Development, new ground-up facility, which you did approve at that time. Earlier that month, the planning board approved the site plan application, which we have a record copy of also for reference here this evening. Tonight's hearing is about the second building, the 42,000 square foot warehouse, the facade, its elevations, materials, colors, appearance, general aesthetic. So without further ado, I think Greg can take it. And I think Laura has on the board renderings and elevations, but we also have paper copies here if that's easier to see colors and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, for the record, my name is Gregory Smith from GSD Associates Architects. Kind of a reference is it's the building on the site plan entering in this way. This is the Loomis facility that's under construction now, and this is the proposed building we're calling 5B Aviation. Currently, it's a spec building. There's some potential tenants that we're looking towards operating in here, and this will be kind of the front entrance as you drive in off of Aviation Park Drive. It would be a view of this corner of the main entrance of the warehouse with mostly a small office area in the front in this area, and the rest be for a warehouse and shipping of different products. So I don't know, I mean, as far as who the tenant potentially is, or we just don't really know yet. The colors on this were trying to match similar to what's over at Loomis, where we had before, if you remember, we had kind of a red accent panels and stuff, and we toned that down into a gray type scheme. So this is kind of picking up with that is the main entrance, location for a sign, then just some horizontal stripes in there to, again, just kind of break up the wall itself. We're limited to 40 feet because of the proximity to the airport, so we can't have anything higher than 40 feet. So, which would be up around the heights of the building and this roof. We would be suspending the HVAC units underneath that in certain parts of the building, and hence these exhaust hoods would be, we don't know exactly how many are yet, but be one or two maybe on a facade that would be up high, and again, we can paint them out, so I don't know how visual will actually be. But the main point of this was to kind of focus in on the, kind of the entry itself. Little canopy and some, maybe some detail, some granite stone on the facade down at the base. Back of the building, we're looking at 9 drive-in bays, and 9 dock bays, 4-foot high dock bays, and then 1 drive-in bay for either maintenance or other type of vehicles that would be inside the building. So, and this facade, the whole building, actually, what we're intending to do is build it with a metal insulated building system. So this is essentially, I brought a sample of the wall panels, which are, they come in roughly 3 foot wide, 4 foot wide, and then they interlock with one another and they're gasketed, so air sealant, and essentially you get your facade, the whole building, the interior done as well, and the insulation all with one panel. So, making it a very energy efficient building as well.
So that's the whole wall right there.
That's it, yeah. And it comes in different thicknesses depending on what insulation you'll have. It, like for instance, at Loomis, what we did because of the security, we did, in a way it was similar to this, but it was concrete with insulation in it because of the durability with, obviously with what they're doing in there. Where this is just all metal scale. I'll pass these around. I don't think the gaskets are in here, but I'll give you an idea of what it is. That's all polyisocyanurate foam, which is a
I see how it's.
long word.
Yeah, I
but
was gonna
essentially
say that a
it's
couple of times, huh?
It's a higher capacity insulation that it doesn't. It's also more environmentally friendly as far as the off-gassing and stuff. It's not made with fluorocarbons and stuff like that.
They really supposed to handle it like this.
Anyways, that's the type of system we're looking at using, and then obviously the typical doors, overhead doors and stuff around the building, and just trying to get some accent, some interest in at the front. So I don't know if you have
Super
any
light.
questions or.
What's
sorry,
the
I'm
dark
in your way.
band? What's the dark band?
This would just be a painted line on the metal panel.
Okay.
Again, just, it was more to just,
Right.
it's 40-foot high panel, just to try to break that up.
Could you lift up the other one?
Yes.
Please? No, the one that's on the floor. Oh, okay. I thought something stood up higher, but it doesn't, so it's fine.
Yeah, and the idea is maybe the panels will go horizontally in the front with the color, and just accent it,
Yeah.
change it up a little.
Okay.
Another view from the back for the drive-in bay. Again, it'd be basic lighting on the building and, again, the exhaust grills for the HVAC system. Again, a high-efficiency building, trying to, just with all the changes in code and the stuff that's coming is gonna make this, not be an outdated building. The way that we've been building the last 10 years ago.
So the accent band, is that painted?
Yeah, it's just paint.
Just paint?
Yep.
What about outside lighting?
The outside lighting is around the perimeter, so lighting up around the perimeter of the building and the parking. There is, you can kind of see on here, but there is some site lighting here, some pole lighting in the parking, and then obviously along the back edge. This is part of the Loomis over here, but it's carrying on the same concept. Again, cut off, the pole lights that have cutoffs on them.
Yep,
So it's not
so they're all
lighting up.
downcast, dark sky compliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is that your landscaping also? That's good, all the trees or bushes?
This is, I believe, I'm not sure, is that the one that was submitted? It's very similar.
Yeah, that's very similar to the approved plan. I think there was one minor change that was done administratively after the approval was achieved, but I think, you know, if you do have some questions about the landscaping plan, we can certainly send you the approved.
Oh, it looks good, looks like a lot.
Yeah, yeah, there's a good
I
amount.
mean, we didn't show them in the rendering, but there are trees along the front and around that side.
I think we also discussed the landscaping plan when you guys came in for Loomis. And we gave a couple of recommendations that you said that wouldn't be a problem. In fact, I think you actually already had lilacs in the landscape plan, so that's good too. Any other questions or comments from Heritage members?
What's
No.
the features on the roof drawing we have here?
Oh, the roof drawing was just to, just really for, just to show that there's no large HVAC units on the roof. So as far as, like, you have a requirement for screening and stuff in the regulations, and so we wouldn't need to do any of that.
They're all suspended in the interior ceiling.
They'll all be suspended in interior and just the
Oh.
exterior hood for the intake and exhaust.
And that's all mechanicals? There won't be anything on the roof?
We don't perceive if we have to do some additional ones for the office space, they could kind of be suspended as well below the ceiling. And or put an outdoor unit maybe on the ground, on the side and screen it. Probably over on this side, similar, there's already an electrical.
Yeah, you can kind of see it on
transformer.
this part of the rendering right
Yeah,
here.
the transformer's already here, which, again, we did show some screening there, but, and it wouldn't need to be a very big unit either, so.
Okay.
I didn't understand what these triangular things
Oh,
are.
those are just, a cricket to slope the roof to the drain because of the way the pitches of the
Oh, okay.
roof. So the roof would be, the structure would be pitched, so the insulation is continuously thick all the way through, and then just at the drains, it would be a little built-up section of insulation.
Okay.
Pitch the water.
Thank you.
Yeah, cricket, that's a new one for me.
I was gonna say, that's industry standard terminology. It's called a cricket.
It's actually, yeah, it is. Actually, if you look in the back of our regular house with a chimney, there's a little pitch behind the chimney. That's kind of what a cricket is. It's just there to pitch the water array, with the water around an obstruction so you don't get water damming in there and rot and fester your roof. So
Interesting.
it's called a cricket. Doesn't sound without a sound.
Right.
This is a continuing learning process.
Yeah.
A whole nother language from what I'm used to, but.
I was glad I came for his, that was interesting,
David,
and he's very sharp, you know, you can tell he's on the ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does a lot of our historic research and stuff,
Yeah.
and he comes in and tells us stuff that nobody alive today would probably know without his input, so,
You can tell he
He
enjoys it.
knows a lot of detail.
yeah. All right,
All right.
I have nothing further.
nothing further, okay. I'm okay with it, I think it looks good, it's industrial, so what are you gonna do? Yeah, without any other questions or comments, we'll accept as presented.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Next design review application is for design of site plan amendment for construction of a building, addition, and other associated site improvements at 3 Mohawk Drive, map 6, lot 35-19, Daigle Pool Service Company, Inc., applicant, and Genco Realty LLC owner.
Handouts. here forever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got one.
For Heritage?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Loring. I'm with Benchmark LLC. We're the engineers for the Daigle Pool site plan. We're here tonight on their behalf. For their property located at 3 Mohawk Drive. It's identified as tax map 6, lot 35-19. It's a 1-acre lot on the northerly side of Mohawk Drive. It's, if you're familiar with the area, it's right next door. It's in between Dunkin' Donuts and the Right Space storage facility. It's in the C1 zone. It's also in the Route 102 Performance Overlay District, but due to the size of the lot and the zoning, there's an exemption. So we just fall under the C1 zoning. The property has an existing commercial building on it now that's services for Daigle Pools. It was from an approved, building was built off an approved site plan in the early 1980s. So there's some, just general, the septic well, they have a sign up by 102, and there's some parking and a few utility improvements associated with that. We're proposing to construct a 29 by 54 addition at the rear of the building. We're gonna be moving around some pavement to accommodate that addition, kind of shuffling it around in the back. And if you look at, so the first photo on that, the handout that I gave you, that's just a photo of the existing building now. The proposed plan is to make the existing, or the proposed addition match. It's gonna have the same siding, the asphalt, the darker asphalt shingle roofs. It'll all match for the proposed addition. So that's the front. So if this picture was taken standing close to Mohawk Drive, so that's what I'm calling the front of the building. And that first rendering, the number 1 is that's the front elevation of the building. The next one is the rear. So that would be looking at the building from the 102 side. And that garage door shown on the left-hand side of the building. On the right-hand side, the gable end, that's the new addition. And these drawings were provided from the owner and his builder, so this is what they're proposing for the addition. Page 3 is the right side of the building, and so that's looking at it from kind of the westerly end of the site, looking towards the building. You can see there'll be another garage door. They're planning to use this. There's going to be some office space in there, and then it's also going to be for storage of the pool equipment. And then the next rendering is the left side on the Dunkin'. That'd be from the Dunkin' Donuts side. And they just attached an aerial image of what the site looks like today. And then the last plan is shaded in yellow is where the proposed addition will be located on the rear of the building. So from the front, from Mohawk Drive from the front, you won't be able to, a little bit of the peak is slightly higher than the existing building. So that's really all you'll see from the street. And 102 is quite a bit higher, so that building is pretty tough to see. You can kind of see little bits of it as you go down 102 from either end, but it's quite a bit lower than 102 there, so the visibility is, in the back is very minimal. And that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer your, any questions.
As far as design elements, keeping with the current siding, shingles, all that stuff, you're just gonna
Yep.
match exactly what's
Yeah,
there?
match there for color, the same color vinyl siding, that kind of light brown, and then that dark asphalt shingle roof.
Okay. And site improvements, are you doing anything outside of the addition? Lighting, landscaping? You said you were
There's-
gonna be moving some pavement around.
Yeah, some of the pavement in the back, if you look at the site plan, there's an area in the rear, you can see the hatched area of pavement to be removed. So really, we're kind of sliding that pavement to the east to just pull it away from that building a little bit. So it's roughly the same footprint that's back there, just with the addition. We're gonna have to move it to the right a little bit to get it away from that addition. And as far as lighting, there will be, so that plan shows what there are for existing lights. So on the rear, you can see there is one light that will be over the existing addition area. So that's gonna be moved. We're gonna put 2 new lights, one above the garage door, and then there is a small 3-foot a walk door just to the right of that garage door. So there'll be 2 lights above that. And as far as landscaping, for sight distance, there's a couple trees in the front that we're gonna be removing, and we're gonna replant. There's 2 we're gonna cut down, and we're gonna replant them with 4 new trees. But the site, it has established landscaping. There's quite a bit of evergreen and deciduous trees. There's a pretty good buffer between that building and Dunkin' Donuts on the left-hand side of the building. And there's a lot of landscaped areas around the building itself right now.
So the pavement removal has no influence on the parking spaces that are there currently?
We are reducing the parking. There's gonna be a couple less spaces. And mainly that's due to the garage door, just to be able to get into that garage door on the new addition. Because the parking did kind of come, there were 5 in the back, and now we're gonna reduce that down to 2. So there's 3 less spaces, but it's in the rear of the building now. They use that area for themselves. So the kind of ultimate goal of this is right now on that right side of the building, there's 6 spaces there. And right now it's full of pool equipment. So where, when they build this addition, they're hoping to move everything inside and get those 6 spaces for their employees back. And from speaking with the owner, that parking is, the parking in the rear wasn't utilized, and there's no parking spaces on the front or side that'll be removed as part of this. So they were okay with that.
Thanks.
From the picture and from the drawing, it looks like you're taking out a door. You're modifying the front of the building a lot. If I compare the photograph and compare the drawing on the first page, which says street view, is that correct?
No, they're not planning on, I see that, yeah, there's the doors seem like they're off a little bit from what's there on the front, but no, there's no plans to move around or remove any of those windows on the front.
Okay.
Just kind of discrepancy when they did the rendering. They made it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
super simple, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're more focused on that rear addition.
The
So
addition.
with those buildings and the doors, I think that's, in the rear, that's what they were focusing on, so.
I'm sorry, did you say before, is that garage door pre-existing that's on the back? Or is that gonna be added?
Yeah, there's one that's existing that will remain. If you look at that second page, there's a
The door on
there's a
the,
small door and then a garage door on the left side, so that's there now.
that's there now, it's
Yeah,
gonna remain.
and then where that building comes, where the addition comes out, they're gonna put another garage door to get more, to go into their
Kinda
storage area.
Like kitty corner, well,
Yeah, it'd be,
in that same corner is the?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
So do you know if the owner, Daigle, is the same one in the plumbing business?
I don't know what the relationship there is, if there's some type of family or,
Just the same name, maybe?
yeah, maybe, I'm not sure.
I have nothing further myself.
I'm all set also.
Yeah, I think I'm good as well. All right, with no further question or comments, I will accept as presented.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Do you need to?
Next order of business is staff reports, which I understand there are none for tonight. Okay. And moving on to other business, we have the Kent Allen Forest update and benches.
Okay. I can give a quick update if you want to, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, please.
Kevin Smith with Meredith Allen have put together like a little ad hoc committee to handle the maintenance that Kent did to take care of the forest. So on the committee is Laura, myself, Kevin, Jim Butler, Jake Butler, Jack Gruby, who I've known for a long time, haven't seen in a long time either also, and a lady by the name of Heather, who is across the street from the forest in the common. So it is an ad hoc group, and Meredith presented a whole list of things that Kent's details on the types of fertilizer, and I'm not going to go into it because it is detailed. So, but it's extremely good guidance. And I think what Kevin is going to do is there's going to be a new, someone overseeing the highway division, and Steve Cotton's job, and going to phase them into it, do the maintenance. And the highway department already has done a lot of work for Kent. They'll still continue to do that. And there's 3 groups that do a lot of the work. Maybe this, what Meredith, I think, had given us, that Kent put together could be sent to the commission. And I noticed the Orchard Christian Church, Orchard Christian Fellowship, Echo USA, and Trimmers have done a lot of volunteer work in there. A lot of it's just removing the brush. And that'll kind of continue. But the detailed work, it goes by the month of what needs to be done also. So we figure it's going to take probably a dozen people to do the work that one Kent did himself.
That sounds about right.
There's 2 things that both Meredith and Kent had wanted, was to rewrap some of the trails. That's that ground asphalt stuff,
Yep.
which is really good. It keeps it rustic looking. And also that open area across from the Orchard Christian Fellowship is to develop that into a parking lot. And I know John Trottier had done some engineering work on it with Kent, and I think it was probably a few years ago I made a presentation or just a brief overview. I think this was even before we got into the drainage problem on the town common. And at some point in the future, the commission could have John come in to give a, talk about what he's put together, because if there's going to be a parking area, one, it needs the approval of the commission, and it also needs to have engineering work done, cost put to it, and at some point get put into the budget or a warrant article to pay for it. So that part of it will be Kevin's responsibility, and we'll help out anyway. That is, if the commission wants to see that happen. That'll be done in wrap also. So we'll keep it kind of, in the theme of Little Forest, nothing fancy or anything. And I know one of the things that the committee wasn't too, didn't have very strong feelings of a lot of park benches there. I know this is coming up because there's people that like to have a park bench with either their name or an ancestor's name on it. But the feeling is that the town forest is not a memorial or anything. It's the town forest for people to enjoy, not benches all over the place. So I think this commission's got to be very careful on what it allows. I know we have one granite bench that was donated by Dick Hodgkinson's wife. Dick Hodgkinson, I think, was our town manager probably, when I was first on the Board of Selectmen in '86. He was town manager from '86 to '89, and then went to head up the Manchester, the civic organization that does name is on the tip of my tongue, but of course, it's going through the Rolodex of my brain right now. It'll come to me after the meeting. But I think that was basically allowed by the, I think the commission at the time and the town council. So we have to go through the town manager, I think town council anyway. So and us, this could be where it starts, but it's really up to us. I think we basically don't have any rules, but I think the committee looked at it as, it has to be someone very significant, that's made a major contribution to the town. Like a former town manager, a former longstanding selectman, something like that.
Yeah.
But I know Meredith's feeling was that things are all right the way they are now as far as benches are concerned.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, one or two benches or something is great, but,
You don't want
to have
people-
a bunch of people like,
People are there to walk and not
Yeah,
to loiter,
right.
not to linger around, and not to sit all the time. Because they're supposed to be moving. Like Kent always moved, Kent never sat.
We do have a member of the public who was inquiring about benches, so this lady here was looking to get some input from the commission about whether or not she could have a bench donated. So just wanted to recognize that she was here.
I will open for public input momentarily, so.
It's okay. I think you almost answered my question, so it's okay.
Can I just add, I know she was looking for something in the town forest. I don't know if the town common would be an option for something in that area, just as a thought while she's here. If, that would be part of your discussion or not.
Yeah, I know we've had, in the past, had talked about benches, but it didn't seem to be something that really carried, because it's used for Old Home Day, and the space is needed for people to stand, and not have it become a collection of, monuments, so to speak.
Kind of curious now that we're talking about it, about, other opportunities for stuff like that, if people wanted to commemorate something like that, whether it has to be benches or pavers in
way back,
a
this-
town space or something.
Yeah, this goes back, I think, into the late '80s, early '90s. It was a fundraiser for Heritage Commission, a historical society with the stones, the
Yeah.
walkway that leads up to the flagpole and everything. And there were stones put in there, and then people could pay to have their name put on the stone. And that went for a period of time, and then that stopped. And I know after that, people were still asking. The decision of the commission was no, this is it. Otherwise, we'll just be constantly doing it. But its purpose was to raise funds, that raised the funds that were needed, and that's that. I don't know if there's any of the paperwork. I remember we were looking for some of the old paperwork and couldn't find it, so. It's probably in one of the storage places that I'm sure probably Steve Cotton is the only one that knows where it is, and Steve's not exactly jumping out of retirement for.
Okay. Any comments, questions regarding the Kent Island Forest updates?
And as things happen, I'll let the commission know anyway, so I'm the conduit, so.
Okay. I will open now for public input if you'd like to speak or ask any questions.
No, I think you probably answered my question. I thought perhaps it would be something that the town could enjoy around the perimeter. My husband's been a resident, or was a resident for 46 years, and he was very active on the Beautify Londonderry Committee until he suffered his first stroke 3 years ago. It's just something that I thought would be special to share with the town. I wanted to purchase it for the town, but as I said, you kind of answered my question. I understand that it can't be, a memorial to the whole world, but Kirby suggested that I come here.
Yes.
Just to see, and I thank you for the time and just considering it, so.
You're welcome.
But I do
We'd-
understand.
We'd love to address everyone, and the thing is, there's many people, because we've had many requests in the past, and if you let one, then you got let them all.
That was exactly my concern, really, was just if we open it up, then we're gonna have an influx of people that want, and we can't.
And that's okay, I
Benches
didn't know
everywhere.
that, so I just appreciate your taking the time to think about it, or to just, but again, you answered my question, so.
This
it's
is some of
okay.
the past history, because we've been here before, so
It's okay, it's okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Maybe you could deal with that with supply and demand. A little stone, about $50,000.
Yeah.
That's why I brought that up, because I know a lot of, when people are asking about doing commemorative things like that, benches is one thing, but they take up a lot of space and they can become, too many benches is,
Yeah.
it defeats the purpose, right?
And no, Kent
but
wanted, what the
A
benches.
lot of
that-
times,
Yeah, the benches that are there are basically simple, that's how Kent wanted it, because the ones that are there were approved by Kent, so.
yeah. And a lot of towns do things like you were talking about, where like maybe a walkway to the town common or even town hall or something, people could purchase stuff like that, but it sounds like we've done it before and kind of,
Yeah, and I think at
Don't have
one
the need
time,
for it
before
anymore.
the school addition went on next door here, there was like a little bench, I think, for Bob Carr. Bob Carr was a longtime town council, not council as in town council, but the attorney. And there was, a good amount of funds that was given for that, so.
Art, I think it's outside the library door.
Is it?
I think
Okay,
I've
it's
seen
probably, it's probably not too far from here anyway, because I know there was discussion of where to move it.
Library.
And the thing was, don't lose it, so-
Yep, I think I've seen it there.
Are there funds available from gifts, whatever, for keeping the forest up?
There is a fund, and I guess it's being formalized now through the town, because Meredith had like an informal fund where the money did go to the town, was maintained by the town, and expended by the town. But it's got to be set up as like an enterprise fund or something. I think our finance director is setting that all up. So it's all become very very formal, because the concern was we don't want to lose funds. We want to have a fund. Because this fund is what buys the fertilizer and the nut trees that Kent has established and everything.
Have they done anything about water supply for over there? Is there
I
anything?
know they're going to
planned?
purchase a hose because there is water there. As you come in the drive, there's a little, whatchamacallit there? Like a little cover. You pull the cover back and there's a spigot and everything where a hose could be attached. So out of the funds, this hose going to be purchased So for watering and probably the bulk of the maintenance, I know Meredith is so meticulous about it, like Kent. And she and her 3 daughters and 3 sons-in-laws have been doing a lot of the work, so.
I just remember seeing Kent over there a number of times when they put in those new trees, and he was just over there daily, bringing
Yes.
in water.
It's a daily operation, because Meredith would say he had his big jugs, he would load up like 15 of them in the back of his pickup, drive up early in the morning, do the watering. If he needed more, he'd come back, load up again, drive back up. It was all manual labor.
It's too bad we fixed the drainage on the town common. We would have had all the water we needed.
Oh, we thinking.
The drainage does work on there now, so at least people will have dry
good.
feet on
Yeah,
a
it's
whole
good.
day.
It's not muddy all the time.
But there's not, I think there's an irrigation system for the lawn on the common. But there are provisions to have, at least from the spigot and the hose, that water can be, carried a little distance, so it wouldn't be like what Kent had to do. Kent did a lot more than we ever realized. It's,
Yeah, you spent a lot of time
God
over
bless
there.
his soul.
Okay, next item on the agenda is adjournment. So if anybody doesn't have any further items to discuss,
I will make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hey.
All opposed, say nay. And the ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned.